Hey everyone, really fascinating discussion today. We talk about creating a more understanding world through translation and communication AI solutions for everyone with Saul from OneMeta. Saul, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Evan, and thanks, Tom. It's a great honor to be here with you guys.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. So intrigued by you and your team and your technology. We also have the analyst extraordinaire, Tom Brennan. Tom, how are you?
Very good, Evan. Great to see you as well.
Great to see you again, as always. So let's dive right in. So I'll introduce yourself, your mission, the team, and the big idea behind OneMeta.
Great. So my name is Saúl Leal, and I've been the founder and CEO of OneMeta. And the technology behind OneMeta is just fascinating. A lot of people refer to it as a very pragmatic and futuristic, especially in this world of all things AI. And what we do, let me just provide use case. I will call right now anyone, no app, no internet. I will dial their phone number. I'll talk to you in Spanish, and the other person will hear me in German or Italian, and vice versa. So that's the core of an experience. But there's a lot of technology behind it in terms of security, in terms of intellectual property, and speed. We have our own protocols. We do not use TCP/IP protocols. We have our own protocols, just like Spotify and other organizations. So that's a little bit about the technology, myself, and of course we're a team, multilingual team across the world, and we've been doing this for a little bit over 2 years.
Fantastic. Tom, why don't you start us off? What are your takeaways from the time you spent talking to OneMeta and Saul?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we met last year, it was just so interesting to hear your approach and your passion for this. You talk about a more understandable world, and there's a lot of AI that does a lot of hype. There's a lot of hype around stuff, and sometimes it's not all that useful. But the use cases for this are obvious, and then there's some that are less obvious. Could you maybe give an example of something that you're excited about that's maybe kind of fits in either or both categories?
Absolutely. So a very pragmatic use case will be, we have a call center in Poland. They spend about $15 to $22 an hour for those individuals to speak 5 languages. And they're moving the call center down to India, but they're spending a fraction of that on labor. Well, now they put our technology on top of those call centers in India, and that individual can speak fluently 152 languages. So we are seeing a lot of labor arbitrage, and it's a very pragmatic approach. 2024 was the year where CEOs and COOs from CCaaS providers and call centers were investing in AI and labs. 2025 is now where they need to show the results. They need to show the ROI. And definitely our services provide immediate pragmatic solution and a real impact on the CX and the ROI.
Amazing. So real-time translation sounds like science fiction to many. How does the technology actually work under the hood? Give us a peek behind the curtain.
That's a great point. There's actually 3 different foundations, if I can express it that way. A lot of people think that AI is the silver bullet all-in solution, where in reality it's only a small portion, honestly. In fact, we do not use generative AI. A lot of the organizations, especially we heard from the research group that about 90% of the POCs for AI in general do not get implemented, mostly because the AI committee, which is recent committees mostly from lawyers on IP rights and other areas, they do not approve generative AI. So this is happening more and more in Fortune 1000 organizations. We do not use generative AI. We actually have more of a machine learning neural network approach to this solution. Now, with that said, AI is a small portion. The real challenge is on the training of the AI in that regard. But there are other 2 foundational aspects. One is the transmission protocols, the architecture. if we all have a GPU right next to us, the speed will be fantastic. Well, let me break the news. That's not the case. People are all over the world, and the infrastructure on content delivery networks remains the same. That's why we approach the problem from a transmission protocol approach, meaning we do not use TCP/IP protocols. If we use TCP/IP protocols, the latency is over 300 milliseconds, half a second or more. So we create our own transmission protocols, and we do it in less than 200 milliseconds. Actually, we do 1/8 of a second, which is 0.125 of a second. That is immediate. So as I'm pronouncing the words, you'll see it and hear it in another language immediately with high level of accuracy. Now, on the training side, we have our own data sets. We are model agnostic. So we work with different models, but we put our own data sets, taking the quality from Czech, for instance, Czech English, which is about 60% all the way to 92, 95%. Spanish English, it's usually about 84, 87% to 92, 95%. So we have our own data sets. We have our own transmission protocols. And probably the most important aspect is IP rights. It's a security. We are a zero trust environment. So that's more of a military term. But what it does, we are HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, GDPR. It's fascinating. I can talk a little more about, spending a lot of time with the Vatican and having a multilingual environment. They've been a client for over 2 years. But we also have HIPAA, SOC 2, ISO 27001, and GDPR, among other certifications. But the key is intellectual property. We have a multi-tenant architecture, meaning that if Coca-Cola is our client and Pepsi, they will not be using the technology from the same model. They have isolated models, and the intellectual property is completely different. That is one of the number one items that the Fortune 1000 looked into, and that's why they're choosing OneMeta.
That's great. You teased the Vatican story, so I'm not going to let you get off without telling us that one. Talk a little bit about how you got engaged with him and what you did for him.
And did you meet the Pope? Did you meet the Pope? That's the main question.
I wasn't. I was really looking forward, but we're going back and forth in doing the worldwide mass in multiple languages. That it's every Sunday at 11 a.m. local time.
Wow.
We'll see. I mean, I don't want to tease too much, but the opportunity that we got with them was we got engaged through an event at CES. The CTO was there. He looked at the technology, could not believe it. We engaged in several meetings. At one point, there was a call, I remember, with about 15 people, 15, 16 people. Every person spoke 7 languages. It felt like a Turkish market. We have our own video conference product. So every person was talking their own language and consuming the content in their native language. Yet there were over 30 languages, because every person spoke like 2 or 3, 4, 7 languages. It was one of the greatest experiences, most satisfactory experience. Later after that, we've done large events with them. We've done worldwide events in 56, 62 languages all across the world. And locally, one of my favorite pictures, I'll find it if we have time, I'll share it, is when you have the main podium event at the Vatican. There's several hundred people sitting there, and then on the top, you see all the booth where the interpreters are, and it's empty. Because those interpreters are now focusing on high-value conversations that they didn't have time before. Now those interpreters can focus on the individual one-to-one and provide a better white glove experience, while the technology opens, increases the pie chart of the opportunity, and is dealing with the everyday, in this case, corporate events.
AI is changing the game of business. Will you be on the winning team? I'm Jordan Wilson, the host of the Everyday AI podcast, and your coach to help you learn the X's and O's of AI. Artificial intelligence isn't just a new player in the game, it's a new sport altogether. So if you don't quickly put AI into play, your competitors will run up the score. I've spent my whole life building winning teams, from coaching basketball to working with big players like Nike and Jordan Brand. My next move? Helping you win with Everyday AI. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or on everydayaipodcast.com. Let's tap into AI together and put points on the board.
Amazing. So tell us, across the continuum, you have transcription, translation, and voice synthesis. What do customers really get excited about? Is the translation, but you have other capabilities built into your stack as well. What are they deploying?
Good question. So the basics of it is a speech to text, which is transcription, text to text, which is translation, and then text to speech, which is synthesization of voice.
Mm,
There's a new layer that we have created, which is speech to speech interpretation.
mm,
So we don't go to the written translation. We just go directly from voice to voice.
wow.
That technology really helps with the latency. Again, latency is something that it's key for the user experience. A lot of organizations they show you this shiny objects with AI and they wrap everything with AI, but they're not really looking at the security aspect, the intellectual property, and not even the UX. They're starting to mature into that space. We've been there for over 2 years. So the latency is really key on that speech-to-speech interpretation. Again, at the very beginning, Evan, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. You mentioned the mission of the company. We create a more understanding world. One thing is translation, one thing is interpretation, but we focus on tools that create understanding. And we started with languages, but when you focus on the understanding, that's the ultimate CX experience. So you want to make sure that individuals understand and provide sufficient cognitive touch points in that interaction. That's what we do.
Amazing. And Tom, you're an expert on the market landscape here. Um, what industries do you anticipate seeing most demand from this technology? I mean, you got enterprise, contact center, healthcare, education, all the above. What do you see driving the adoption of this kind of tech, Tom?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly the general contact center, just in a multilingual environment. But what I've seen back from my consulting days actually was, there are enormous challenges in things like healthcare, and because you got very very smart doctors and nurses, but it can get very expensive to have translators brought
Mm,
in. It can get very cumbersome to do that. So healthcare is a big area for sure. My father was in the legal profession, and he used to talk
mm.
about the challenges they had where, courthouses are required to have translators for anybody that walks in. So, trying to have those skill sets available, again, it can be complex, it can be difficult. And particularly as we just go to a more global world, and more global interaction, I think just even general contact centers that are engaging in a global world to be able to provide, not have to have, well, we have a center in the US for English, we have a center in France for French speaking countries, and et cetera, to be able to handle all those out of one center, especially in an after hours scenario where it's harder
Mm.
to get resources. Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think there's some use cases. Am I right, Saul? You're into this every day. How did I do?
You're exactly right. You position it very well. That's some of the use cases. Insurance in the medical space. We actually have a client in the non-emergency medical transportation. They use the technology every day for hours. We have other organizations in the financial aspect. Organizations like the money grants, the Western Unions of the world. We are seeing now large enterprise like the Big Four using our technology. And once again, they care a lot about the user experience. They care a lot about security, and they care a lot about easiness of integration. we live in such a fragmented world that the question is, how is this going to integrate to my legacy system that I spent millions of dollars in? And these legacy systems are honestly really having a hard time to sprinkle AI and make it work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. I mean, Tom, you've seen all of the solutions out there for language understanding. There's so many LLMs now targeting this space, voice and beyond translation. But where do you see this technology in particular, position versus all those other technologies, including big tech? We've got Llama from Facebook.
Yeah.
Is this is this one of many technologies that's going to try to bring us together for communications purposes?
No, that's a good point. Let me create a quick analogy. Hopefully, it makes sense as I make it on the fly. But a lot of people address it the similar way, especially in competition. And for me, it's like, okay, you are selling sushi. Do you worry about the markets that are selling basmati rice from India? And it's like, yes, but no. First, our type of customers are very specific, and the solution that we provide is a very high value offering for that specific use case. So, do we worry about basmati and those big corporate rice, as a commodity? Yes, but again, it's about the added value. Now, let me see if I can, no pun intended, translate the analogy. So we do have companies like Samsung, for instance. Samsung came up about last year with a phone that does interpretation on the fly. It's not enterprise. It's not HIPAA. It's Google based. And the first year they don't charge. After the second year they charge. And it only works from phone on the latest model to the phone on the latest model.
Ah, I see.
So yes, it's a beautiful intention because it basically starts showing the commodity and the benefits of AI. But in reality, for a Fortune 500, for a Big Four, they're not able to use that at scale, right? Especially with security settings. We provide all of that, and we package all of that at the highest level. I'm yet to see companies that provide all of the features bundled into the phone system agnostic to any carrier. So once again, I can dial any phone number in the world. I can speak in Spanish, and the other person will hear me in English or any other language, in 150 languages. No carrier specific. It's agnostic. No internet and no app. It's just over the audio channel. That is one of the greatest value proposition that our innovation team has provided. Evan, did I answer your question?
You did, and just to follow on there, tell us about your go-to-market. I mean, you're not selling directly to consumers like Samsung, obviously. So I assume you're working with enterprises directly, but integrators and VARs and managed services providers or telcos, or how are you deploying this technology out to customers?
I'm very humbled to express that my go-to-market strategy because we are following the strategy and the strategy is working. And as sophisticated that we're seeing language models, organic training, synthetic training, TCP/IP protocols, and it sounds very sophisticated, very elaborate, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it is very sophisticated. I will say at a very similar level is our go-to-market strategy. We have chosen the top three CCaaS providers, based on a research group, the NICE-CX1, the Five9, the Genesis of the world. And we have close agreements, and in some cases, OEM agreements with them. And this is public information. You'll be able to see the press releases from these organizations and from us. And we are the ones behind implementing this strategy. So all of a sudden, you get Five9 with about 9 billion minutes per year on communication. And with one touch of a button, they now can speak. Every agent that has hired their services can speak 152 languages. Or you have the NICE-CX1 with 1.5 million agents be able to use that technology over 25,000 clients. They'd be able to use our technology as we OEM with them. So that strategy is working, and it's ever growing. I mean, as you can imagine, we're talking with some of the largest organizations in the world, and then you have the largest BPOs. I mentioned some of the big fours. Interesting enough, I came to know that some of those are BPOs. They're really hard, and it's fantastic to see organizations with 700,000 employees using, working with our technology.
Brilliant. And Tom, this is a big challenge in contact centers of all sizes, scopes, and locations globally. How big is this market, do you think? I mean, it strikes me as a multi-billion-dollar problem needing solving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from my perspective too, it's just about getting over that trust threshold. It's like, okay, we have the technology, and it scales up, it scales down, and anyone that ever deals with anybody in the public, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. But there's the trust issue. It's that we're putting our reputation on the line. In some cases, they are regulated industries, and it's one thing to be HIPAA compliant, but it's another thing to make sure it's accurate. And to be able to audit that stuff, to be able to show and demonstrate. I mean, I'm sure it's one of your challenges, Saúl, is demonstrating the accuracy. But for outside of very specific use cases, it's a massive opportunity, and it's one of those too that I think people just aren't even aware of as possible yet. So it's getting over that hump, and then for them to think, wow, what maybe we're missing opportunities because we know we can't support all these different languages.
That's fantastic. And Sal, where do you see yourself and this space going over the next 3 or 5 years? Are we going to have this technology embedded in all of our products, our headphones, our AirPods, our devices, a Star Trek communicator when I travel to Spain and need real-time translation? This is a much bigger opportunity than even just the call center contact center market.
We live in unprecedented times, even to follow with the technology. I mean, every day there's literally something new, and it's an exponential growth. So yes, I will expect that this technology more and more becomes a commodity in the user B2C world. I think that will amplify the pie chart and the use cases. Because after the pandemic, we realized that about 70% of the companies in the United States have put in their focus to expand internationally. And we're seeing that more and more. There's not enough interpreters in the world. So this comes right into that great demand. But as you go enterprise, security has some challenges, CX provides some challenges, and that's where we're positioning ourselves in this new category. We're positioning ourselves as the category king.
Fantastic. And Tom, you're a gadget fanatic. I have my Meta glasses here.
I was just thinking about that. I'm glad you put them on, because I was getting ready to ask you.
Translation and even image recognition AI is coming, or is in beta already. The voice interface is a huge opportunity across so many industries in the consumer side. Where are we going to be in a couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit on it right there. I mean, it's with the technology exists, and now we have an interface that can capture in real time and play back in real time. So it's just a matter of Meta getting with OneMeta to put that capability in every pair of Ray-Bans they sell. I mean, I think that's the easy answer there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, Saul, what are you up to the next few weeks and months? Where can folks meet you or see you? Or we're past the busy event season, but you have a lot going on. What's on your radar?
So we'll certainly be going to some of the events in Vegas here in June. We're working very close with some of the top CCaaS providers and top BPOs and Big Four in the world. We're also seeing a good relationship now with language service providers. It's stronger and stronger as they're seeing the competitive advantage of humans and co-piloting with AI, even in human interpretation, and how they can leverage their time and be more focused and efficient. So yeah, you will see me quite a bit in a few words. We're very heavy investing, and we just announced our NASDAQ. So that, despite the market, once it gets stable, we look forward to that.
Let's cross fingers there. Tom, what about you? Where can people see you, meet you, or learn more about your services?
Yeah, just I guess I got a couple events in June. I'll be over in Milan with some of my consulting colleagues. So looking forward to that. Nice interactions, of course, the later part of it's probably one of the places that OneMeta will be, but I'll be out there, and 3 or 4 other things, and then the fall gets bananas again. But right now it's kind of nice being home for a little bit. So
yeah, well, it is nice. The summer is arriving, and thanks so much, guys, for sharing your insights. Really good chat.
Thanks, Evan.
Excellent.
And thanks everyone for listening and watching. Take care.